Hey there, Squirrel Army, how's it going? For today we're talking about Assemble the Players from Karloff Manor.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Alrighty, so a 2-mana white enchantment, and we can look at the top card of our library at any time, which is pretty nice. And once each turn we may cast a creature spell with power 2 or less from the top of our library. So this is a white weenies card. And we can cast things from our library that are, white weenies, effectively. I don't know how good this is in EDH, but I think the card advantage is alright, especially for like 2 mana. I've said for a while that I felt like white needed a card kind of like this, kind of like Vizier of the Menagerie and a couple of those other cards. I do feel like this is a little bit sad in some ways because every time that white gets a card like this, it's like only once per turn or whatever, that sort of thing. You may only do this, once and that sort of thing. You can't do it any more than once. It only happens once, or etc. Blah, 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 that sort of thing. Like a bunch of the white cards that have come out, like Folk Hero, and a couple of the other ones that have come out, like the Angel or the Vampire Girl that came out a little while ago. Oh man, it makes you sad because they actually printed a new white card that was sort of fairly recent. I don't know whether we talked about it too much here on the channel, but it's effectively a Verdant Force for white, but it's a little bit cheaper. So it makes a 1/1 every turn, and that's pretty darn good. Like with something like those sorts of cards, when you're getting those tokens on your opponent's turns, it starts to become quite good because you're just drawing cards on your opponent's turns and actually is pretty decent. If you have, though, I've just thought of this, if you have ways to play at flash speed or instant speed with your creatures, then this could be quite good because then you could start doing it on each of your opponent's turns as well, because once each turn, not just once each of your turns, like a lot of those cards. So if you can find ways to do things in your opponent's turns, quite alright, perhaps. But you've really got to be able to stack your deck. Like things like Sylvan Library and other ways to stack the top of your deck and things like that. Then maybe, yeah, sure, you can start doing things like this by going, well, play a creature on your turn, play a creature on your turn, etc. Get back to my turn, start playing things, And with other effects, it certainly isn't too bad, certainly. You can sort of, if you have a multiple of those sorts of effects, it can start sort of stacking up quite well. But that's the problem. Green just gets you draw a card by sneezing. You get card advantage by sneezing. There's all these cards now that are in green that just dump cards into your hand and whatnot. Even blue hasn't got the amount of card draw love that green has gotten in the last few years with a few of their enchantments. Blue is actually pretty bad in terms of, now, cards that draw at extra cards, and that sort of thing. Even white's gotten more, it's just gotten this card, and this isn't even that good. But it's better than anything blue's gotten in absolutely forever because it hasn't got anything. Red hasn't got anything either, neither has black, really. But, again, I'm glad that white is getting this, but God damn it, Wizards. I know, for standard purposes or modern purposes or things like that, perhaps, the power level is completely different and perhaps the perspective is completely different. And yes, I will say again, I saw this tweet out there a couple of days ago, not every card is printed for Commander. So not every card works in Commander. So unless you're really built well around these sorts of effects, and that's the challenge of Commander sometimes, building around these sorts of effects. But again, like, unless you've got that sort of thing going on in your deck quite a lot, you probably are just like, well, it's only once per turn, and I have to be white weenies to really get any effect out of this, so, you know, I might as well just play Mentor of the Meek. That's just way better, even though I've got to push that mana gate every single goddamn time, but at least I can draw a card and do it more than once per turn. Yes, I've still got to get through that mana gate, but still, again, at least I've got a way to draw more than one card per turn without having to build around it too much. Yes, I have to have mana. Oh no, what? You know, like, that's not that big of a hoop, really. I don't feel. So I think that's probably fine. But again, like, this seems like it could be good. It's obviously not, like I said, it's got a lot going against it. Like, actually, if it just said, you may cast creatures as though they had flash. Even that, even if you tacked on one more mana to this thing. Like, because most, like, you may look at the top and you may cast things from the top 3 or 4 mana. So, like, if they had to put one more mana on this, even if it was another white pip, even if there was triple white pips, like, I think that this would be still a card that a lot of people would, like, try to pick up if it said you may play creatures at flash, because then at least you can sort of play 4 creatures or 3 or 4 creatures potentially every turn, as long as there's a 2 or less creature on the top of your library, which is going to be kind of a little bit rare unless you're basically mono 1 and 2 power creatures. Like, so, yeah, just, like, certainly, like, again, like I said, we can't complain too much, but I do really wish that like, this was just better for this format, certainly. But that's me. That's the way that I look at our format. I'm always looking at this format and whatnot. I'm never looking at Standard or Pioneer or whatever, any of that other stuff, whatever. I don't really care about that stuff. I know some people do. It's not my bag, whatever. I don't really pay much mind to it. Like, if I play Arena every now and again, yeah, cool, whatever. Like, if I'm really bored or something, yeah, sure, I might play it here or there, but that's about it. Like, again, I'm just not into it. It's not my cup of tea. I'd rather play Commander because I, don't like the 1v1 aspect of it and that sort of thing, and all of the other stuff that just goes along with, like, competitive Magic and whatnot. But that's just me. I know that there's a lot of people out there that do like that stuff, so, if you can find space for this, I don't even know if they can find space for this in, like, Standard. Like, I'm sure you could probably find space for this if you pull it in Limited, like in Draft or Pre-Release or whatever. But, like, beyond that, I don't know. I don't even think it's that good or that strong. Like, maybe it is, I don't know, but then again, I'm not too sure. Like, white weenies was kind of a thing in Standard before. I don't know how much, like I said, I don't keep up with the format. I don't really care either. But it's just one of those things. If you're looking at the format and thinking, well, how good is this? They probably run 2 or 3, 4 copies of this thing. And that means you're running less creatures. Like, if this was a creature, then maybe you could argue to say, well, at least it's a body 2, and, like, it helps with your other creature counts for your other decks, so maybe. I was thinking about this in, like, a couple of my humans decks, but again, like, those decks not that they don't have any, but they don't have enough creatures that are 2 or less for me to constantly hit it, so I just don't think I probably will. It's the same thing with, Herald's Horn and things like that, where you choose a creature type, they cost 1 less at the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top, if that's type, you put it to your hand. And things like that, or whatever. Like, things like that, like, I don't know. I for some reason, I don't know why it is, like I said, it is good that they're giving white these things, but why are you doing it in this regard? Like, you're limiting it so much unless you're playing a very specific certain strategy, and that's okay, like, in a sense, but when you say once per turn, like, white already has so many limitations as it is that I don't think it needs that limitation, and you just give it for free to green. Like, what the heck? Like, I like green and all, but it's just like, man, they give everything to green for free. Don't even blink and think, oh, that's too powerful for green. Maybe we should taper it back a bit. But whenever they're putting something in white, oh, we've got to taper it back. It can't be quite as good. Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. Like, what? What the heck? If anything, white needs more help. So don't limit it like this. Let it do what it wants to do and let it draw it. Like, play as many 2 power or less things as it wants, because it's probably not going to be playing many of them anyway. It's probably only going to get 1 or 2 at most, sometimes at best. So you might as well take that bit of text off, because they're not going to get like many creatures off of it, even if they're really built around it, because again, they've got to cast those cards, and we all know that white can't really ramp. So, like, at least let it cast some spells from its library or whatever. Give some form of card advantage. I don't know. But that is my thoughts on this card. You guys can let me know your thoughts. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below. What do you think? Am I super wrong on this? Is this just plain out busted somehow and I don't realize it, or whatever? Is there some other synergy that I really haven't thought of? You can let me know all that down there in those comments. Hope you've enjoyed one way or the other, and hope you'll join me again in another one.